Timberlane Regional School District Budget Committee. I will open the meeting for the purpose of nominating a chair, and at that point I will hand the meeting over to the chair. So I guess as acting or standing chair of the Timberlane Regional Budget Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to executive order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone. We're utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have an ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through the platform, and the public has access contemporaneously to listen to this meeting. The information is on the Budget Committee site. Providing public notice of necessary information for accessing the meeting, again, is available on the committee site, which is timberlane.net, committees, Budget Committee, documents, or just simply go to the meeting itself. Providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. There is both a telephone number and email on the agenda itself. And to adjourn the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that were taken during the meeting shall be done by roll call vote. So let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance, and I will turn that over to Jaleese.
Christia Claire, Brian Boyle, Marissa Brown.
Here.
Jeff, are we still doing where we have to state who's in the room and all that? I don't know.
For right to know if you wanted to state that if you're the only person in the room, indicate as such.
I'm alone in the basement and I will have other members of the household upstairs.
Catherine Consalvo.
I am here. I'm alone in the room. I have other members of my household.
Julie Hammond.
Here, I am alone in the room, but there are others in the house.
Julian Kiskaka. Michael Mascola.
Here, I am alone in the room and alone in the house.
Todd McCormick.
Here, I'm alone in the room, but there are other people in the house.
Sue Sherman.
I'm alone in the room, but there are others in the house.
What?
Thank you. So with that, I will.
You
Sorry.
do Mark Sherwood.
Mike Sherwood.
Apparently, I'm more alone than I thought I was.
I was waiting for that. Maybe I missed it.
Alone in the room, others in the house.
All set.
So we get both Sherwoods, just not at the same time. We just get one or the other, right? So.
Jeff, do you want to do the pledge probably first before we go over the RSAs?
Sure. I was going to hand that over to the chair, but certainly I will hand it over to our most recent chairman, Todd, if you would mind leading.
Absolutely.
Pledge.
All right. Dean, if you will. Is Dean on here to put the flag? Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Dean is on.
All right, I'll just go. I pledge of allegiance
To
to the flag
of
of
the United States of America and
to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
Under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
indivisible, with
with liberty and justice
Justice
for
for
all.
If it is okay with the rest of the committee, I would like to dispense with the agenda as it's set out, which is prescribed by the committee's bylaws, and go immediately to the nomination of a chair for the upcoming season, which, by the way, just so that everyone is sitting down, hopefully, we are in the 2021 budget year. We just voted on the 21-22 budget, and this committee will be working on the 22-23 budget, which is very hard to believe. So
Ours will be flying by then.
I'll accept nominations. Nominations do not require a second. So I will accept nominations from the floor from anyone who'd like to make one. Sue?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Todd McCormick for chair.
Todd McCormick has been nominated for chair. Are there
Okay.
any other nominations? First call, second call, any other nominations? And last call, any other nominations? None? Hearing none, we'll still do a roll call. If so, elected Todd, would you accept said position?
I would.
All right, Jaleese, despite the fact that there's only one candidate in good form, I'd ask you to do a roll call.
Marissa Brown,
Yes.
Catherine Consalvo,
Yes.
Julie Hammond,
Yes.
Michael Mascola,
Yes.
Todd McCormick.
Yes.
Okay. Sue Sherman,
Yes.
Mark Sherwood.
Yes, please.
Oh, Michael must, oh yeah, you got everybody. Okay.
Motion carried.
Congratulations.
Yours, sir.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Thanks. Appreciate it. All right, I guess I'll take over from there, Jeff. So could we get somebody to nominate a vice chair?
I would like to nominate Sue Sherman.
All right. Any other nominations? Anyone? All right. Sue, do you accept?
Yes.
Okay. So Jaleese, if you could do another roll call.
Marissa Brown,
Yes.
Catherine Consalvo,
Yes.
Julie Hammond,
Yes.
Michael Mascola,
Yes.
Todd McCormick,
Yes.
Sue Sherman,
Yes.
Mark Sherwood.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Fantastic. Congratulations, Sue.
All right. Thank you.
Congrats. Sue.
I didn't miss one meeting last year, but you never know.
Yeah. Now you're going to run away.
Well, to your earlier point, Zoom makes it really hard since I work from home and I'm always home. So it's kind of hard not, I don't really ever have any decent excuses for not joining.
Right.
So did you have any meetings in person last year?
Oh.
No.
So
Matter of
maybe-
fact, this meeting did not occur until late May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way late. Yeah.
Yep. So, all right. Well, before we get going on the next thing on the agenda, I just want to formally welcome the new members, Marissa, Catherine, Mark, and they're not on right now, but Julian. I guess it's just Julian, right? Am I missing anyone who's new?
We're missing.
Okay. So welcome to the three of you plus Julian, and as well as welcome back, Sue. So this should be another fun year of budget committee. I don't know how long we'll do these Zoom meetings, but you know, we'll play that by ear. Generally speaking, the real work for budget committee kind of starts in September. The main reason for that is the fiscal year doesn't really start until July. And, you know, the budget that we're currently in and the budget that we just had voted in at the polls, well, that one doesn't start till July. So, but we do have an obligation to, you know, monitor the expenses, you know, that the school district is expending during the current year. So there's still a need for at least another meeting, but we'll discuss that as we move forward. But I'm going to hand it over to you, Jeff, to take on the review discussion of RSA. I think normally you just kind of go over it on a high level and then see if anybody has any questions, right?
I do. Yeah. And Michael, I think you had, and it may have occurred, I think Mr. Kishka is missing, but also I'm not sure who the budget committee, I'm sorry, who the school board is going to nominate or name as a budget committee liaison. So Brian Boyle has been that liaison, I think, for the past couple of years, but I don't see anyone here tonight. So I don't think those have been formally announced.
I think they're doing that next Thursday.
That's right. Yeah. So in your packet in the in the organizational meeting packet, It's quite a large package, 77 pages, I think. And included in that are what I would normally distribute if we were in person in the form of a bound packet, which would contain the bylaws of the school district budget committee, as well as the operative RSAs. So I will, if it is okay, just breeze through the bylaws so that everyone knows the context in which we're meeting. And from there, I will skim the RSAs. So as you can see, we are in our annual meeting of the budget committee. The regular budget committee meetings are laid out, as you can see in the bylaws themselves. And based on this schedule, I've put together a proposed schedule for next year's meeting, or sorry, the current year meeting schedule. And we can take a look at that before the meeting is over. The agenda is also included, and you can see the order of business. And that is one of the reasons that I did not, I did request the okay from the committee to diverge from the agenda to nominate a chair so that the chair could dispense with the rest of the business. We do have special meetings that can be called, and those are the terms under which one may be called. We have a definition for quorum, officers, and the appointment of a recording secretary. And I believe, is that on the agenda for the evening?
It is.
It is, yeah. So I'm sure that will be made tonight as well. Jaleese Morales has been very, very good in taking our minutes over the past, well, almost year. So I very much appreciate that. And I hope her consideration will be given on reappointment. We speak to attendance, vacancies, committees. We typically don't have too much of that. CIP is one committee that you typically have sent a liaison to. I don't know if there's any others. The committee typically operates under parliamentary procedure, Robert's Rules of Order. And if you were looking to change these bylaws in any way, they may be amended or suspended, whole or part, only upon 2/3 vote of all the members present and voting. Written notice not less than 14 days prior to the meeting to amend the bylaws is required, unless all members are present. So if there is any interest this year in amending the bylaws for whatever reason, that's how we would do it. So,
But even if we wanted to, we couldn't really do it tonight without 14 days notice because we don't have everybody on.
that's correct, yeah. But if there was something that someone had in mind, it might be good to at least discuss it and try to come back with something that can be noticed in good form to make a change. So,
Okay.
Jeff, can you go back up to the standing committee stuff again?
is that right here?
All right, so we can form our own special purpose committees. Is that correct?
Yep.
Chair shall appoint, yeah. Completion, so it's a, what is that called? An ad hoc committee. It does its work and then it dissolves. So it's not a standing committee.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yep.
I'd be more like single purpose, I would think, if we had some
Right.
issues, some budgetary issue that wanted additional members to look into.
So if we wanted to make our own, I don't know what it would be, we could. Or can we appoint someone, let's say, to the curriculum committee? No, that's not what that says. Is it?
No,
No, okay, just checking.
no. If you wanted to have a
Or
budget committee,
energy committee or anything like that. We don't have a seat at those committees. The only one we do is the CIP.
correct, yeah. And I believe that that's how that was set out. So if any of the committees are set out with budget committee participation, then
Right.
then you would.
All right. Like a couple years ago, Sue, we did it for myself, Peter, and Kathy Gorman. I think it was my first year on the budget committee, so it was 3 years ago. And we were just going over all the policies and the bylaws, and I can't remember if we made any changes or not. We did that kind of between now and
Yeah,
June, but we haven't done it in the last couple of years. I think, want to appoint somebody tonight to the CIP committee, and hopefully that committee will meet a little more frequently this coming
Right.
year.
I hope so.
Yeah. All right. Do we do that now, Jeff? The committees, or are we just doing the recording secretary now?
You certainly could. Certainly the recording secretary could be appointed if you had someone who had interest who may not be here tonight for CIP. I don't, that might be a factor, but there'd be no harm in appointing someone tonight, I think, right?
Okay, well,
And I don't
isn't
even know if you
Jul-
need to do that by committee. It might be within your purview to make that nomination.
isn't Jaleese the recording secretary?
Mhm.
It has been.
Jaleesa, it has been, yep.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion to nominate Jaleese as the recording secretary.
I'll second that.
Nice.
So, Jaleese,
Do I
would
need
you
to go roll?
accept?
Yes.
Okay. All right. If you want to do the roll call, we'll vote on it.
Marissa Brown,
Yes.
Catherine Consalvo,
Yes.
Julie Hammond,
Yes.
Michael Muscola,
Yes.
Todd McCormick,
Yes.
Sue Sherman,
Yes.
Mark Sherwood.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I think Christy Claire is on now.
Oh, Christy Claire, did you hear the motion?
Yeah, I did. Thank you. Sorry, I'm late. Yes.
Great. Motion carries.
Okay. Why don't we just go ahead and nominate the member for the CIP committee now? I'll instead of nominating somebody, does anybody have any interest in being part of that committee?
Well, I'll do it, but unless there's somebody who wants to do it for new blood, I still have the big book, so.
For some of the new folks, Sue, do you want to just kind of give the high level of what the CIP committee does and when they meet, what they discuss?
Well, we discuss, it's a standing school board committee that the budget committee has a seat at. There are four school board reps, 4 town reps appointed by the town officials, one budget committee rep, some SLT administrative reps, and we oversee the capital improvement requests that are made. Anything purchase over $10,000, that's a capital kind of purchase, a truck, a floor polisher, put an addition on the school, and that helps us to plan, in theory, budget expenditures over a longer period of time. So you can kind of see a trending. Do we need about $2 million every year for the next 10 years? Yes, no. And you may move projects that might be requested for this year into another year to kind of balance things so that projects have some kind of logical sequence. We've only had that committee for, 6 years, Jeff?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and the school board started it. I take all the abuse and responsibility for starting that because I thought it was important to look ahead, not just this budget year or the next 18 months, but what do we think for 5 years out? When is that truck that we have that plows the snow really, similar to what towns do? I'm using Plasto as a model. That's where I live. So, we do that. We plan out ahead. And I think some of the other communities do that same thing. Their CIP plans may be a little slightly different than the school board one, but that's essentially what we do. So I've been on it for a while. I chaired it when I was on the school board. The COVID thing didn't help us last year. I'm hoping that the school board will reinvest in the idea of looking ahead, not just looking through the tunnel of we gotta work on the COVID issue, but look at the long range plans for school improvements. So how's that, Todd? Is that good enough?
That's perfect. In light of that, does anyone else have any interest in being a part of that?
So, Todd, this is just a suggestion. We've got 5 newer members. I mean, Christy was here last year. We have 4 new ones. So maybe it doesn't have to get decided now, but to get some of the newer folks, even if they shadow Sue, I think would be a good idea because
I'd be willing to do that, Sue, if you could help me out and kind of explain to me, in the process of it, so I'm not going in blind. I'd be happy to do that.
Obviously, they're a public meeting, so we could bring, we'll call it alternate There's no problem with that. They can't stop us from doing that. The school board can't. You wouldn't be a voting member, you know, you'd have one voting member, one represent, and kind of the one we're kind of getting ready to take over. I think that makes perfect sense.
I agree. And that's a good suggestion, Michael. And I would encourage anyone, once these meetings get going, you know, like Sue said, it's public, join it, watch it, see what happens in it. And then maybe next year, you know, we'll get some new blood in there. And then, you know, I mean, if Sue can't make a meeting, obviously we're going to want to send somebody else to that meeting.
Right,
So,
that's important.
Yep.
And and Michael's right. If the person that we have as our alternate knows what's the process and what's happening up to date, it's a lot easier instead of jumping in blind and sitting there saying, well, I really can't speak on it because I didn't look at that project sheet. Or so yeah, that'd be great if Christy wanted to do that.
and if you haven't seen it, it's a long project sheet. Very long. All right. Well, I'd like to nominate Sue then. And let's get a vote on it. Sue, do you accept?
Sure, I'm happy to do it unless, you know, somebody else wants me to train them and then they take it. I'm okay with that too. I think the atmosphere, we need some strength there.
Okay. I don't even know if we need an official vote. I think I could just nominate Sue, but let's just do it anyway.
Christy Claire,
Yes.
Marissa Brown,
Yes.
Catherine Consalvo,
Yes.
Julie Hammond,
Yes.
Michael Mascola,
Yes.
Todd McCormick,
Yes.
Mark Sherwood,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay. I think the only thing left in this organizational meeting is reviewing and adopting the bylaws, correct, Jeff?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And beyond that, you'll see that there's some interesting frequently asked questions, I believe, that Maria had provided as part of the initial package, and you'll see the relevant controlling RSAs. But beyond that, yeah, if you wanted to adopt bylaws, that would be helpful. And if you had any changes at a subsequent meeting, we know the process for doing that.
Okay. Can we get someone to make a motion to accept the bylaws? Adopt the bylaws?
I'll make the motion, but I would like to add, if there are workshops available from either New Hampshire Municipal or New Hampshire School Boards Association that they can do by Zoom, I really recommend new board members who are getting on the budget committee to attend one of those. They're really helpful. Sometimes you find out that some school districts don't even have a school budget committee. The school board does the budget. That because of the way our I guess those are the agreement articles, we have a budget committee. But I really recommend maybe Maria or Jeff can help you find those workshops. Go to one, attend one. If there's a cost, usually there's not, but if there's a cost, the school district should pay for that training. They're valuable. Sometimes you find out, hey, we're not as bad as we think we are, or you find out, oh gee. But it gives you an insight. So I recommend those. So I'm sorry, Todd, but
That's
yes,
okay.
I make the motion to accept the bylaws.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion. Does anyone have any questions about the bylaws? Any issues with them? Okay, Jaleese?
Christy Claire,
Yes.
Marissa Brown,
Yes.
Catherine Consalvo,
Yes.
Julie Hammond,
Yes.
Michael Mascola,
Yes.
Todd McCormick,
Yes.
Sue Sherman,
Yes.
Mark Sherwood,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, great. All right. Well, without further ado, this is usually a short and sweet meeting, and we're going to keep it that way. So at 7:27, I'd like to officially adjourn this meeting, the Budget Committee organizational meeting, and then we'll start up the next one.
Nice meeting you all.
There you go. So don't go anywhere. All right.
Where's Brian?
Hey, Brian.
Hey, sorry I'm late here.
I wasn't sure if you were going to show up. I didn't know how it worked. But don't they officially nominate you next week?
Well, I believe so, but I was in a meeting myself and I got Jeff's email and I just came downstairs and I said, okay, get me on. How do I get into this thing here? So here I am. So is everything done?
Everything's done.
Yeah, we're all done for the year.
The organizational meeting is done. I'm chair. Sue is vice chair.
Nice. Great.
And Sue is on the CIP committee again.
Great.
All right.
Geez, I'm glad I love meetings like this.
So do you think we will see you again after next week? Are you going to stay with us?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
There you go. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to start up the next meeting at 7:28. Oh, well, I guess we kind of have to wait till 7:30, don't we?
Did I publish it at 7:30 or was it at 7, just
I
right
think
after the?
You published it at 7:30.
Oh, geez, I figured that you wouldn't be that quick, so.
So Todd, maybe you just want to make a quick explanation to the other members of why you can't start the meeting.
Yep. So all these meetings are publicly publicly announced. So, obviously we want as many people involved in the process as possible. We want as many people to join our meetings as possible. We actually saw quite an uptick in folks joining our meetings because of Zoom. So more, again, to your point, Sue, I mean, I was on the budget committee for 2 solid years before last year, and nary a person ever showed up to any of our meetings, right, Michael? I mean,
yep,
maybe one person in 2 years. But even in at the public hearing and some of our later meetings in November and December, we had 20, 30, 40 people actually viewing these meetings. But anyway, the point is, it was published as a 7:30 start time, and so that's why we really can't officially start it until the public has an opportunity to join, so they don't miss anything of this
7:30.
Of this very important first budget committee meeting, 3 months before the fiscal year ends. So anyway, now it's 7:30, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. The first budget committee meeting for the 2022-23 budget. And I'm going to go ahead and read that wonderful little document that Jeff read earlier. As chair of the Timberlane Regional School District Budget Committee Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. There is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by audio and video, utilizing a Zoom webinar platform where all members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during the meeting, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and view by logging onto www.timberlane.net/Zoom-budcom. B, we have given the notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing this meeting. This information has been provided along with the agenda and posted to the board's website at www.timberlane.net. C, we have provided a phone number for the public to alert this public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. That phone number is 603-382-6541, extension 3955. D, we will adjourn the meeting and reschedule if the public is unable to access the meeting. Additionally, all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by a roll call vote. We will begin the meeting by taking a roll call attendance when members state their presence. They must also state whether there is anyone in the room with them during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. And with that, I would ask Jaleese to take the roll call, please.
Christia Claire,
I am here. I am alone in the room, but there are other people in my house.
Brian Boyle,
I am here. I'm alone in the room. There are other family members in the house.
Marissa Brown,
I'm here. I am alone in the basement, and there are other family members in the house.
Catherine Consalvo,
Here, I'm alone in the room, but there are other family members in the house.
Julie Hammond,
Here, I'm alone in the room. There are others in the house.
Julian Kiska, Michael Mascola,
I'm here, alone in the room, alone in the house.
Todd McCormick,
I am here. I'm alone in the room. There are other people in my house.
Sue Sherman,
Here, I'm alone in the room. There are others in the house.
and Mark Sherwood.
Alone in the room, other people in the house.
Okay, all set.
Excellent. All right, first up on the agenda now. Oh, actually, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's see. Christia Claire, could you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure can. I pledge allegiance
To the flag.
To the
of
flag
the
of
United
the States of America,
and to the
to the
republic
republic
for
for
which
which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, Christy. All right, first up is approval of the minutes from the January 14th meeting. That was the Friday after the deliberative session. So the way this usually works is for the new members, you weren't there, obviously. So you can feel free to abstain. I don't think they have to, do they, Jeff? They don't have to abstain. But that's typically what people do if they're not part of a meeting when we're approving minutes. But for the rest of us, Michael, Christy, myself, Julie, and Sue, we would vote to either approve or not approve them. So those went out in your packages. I'll give us about a minute to kind of go over them, and then we'll have somebody make a motion to approve. All right, can I get a motion to approve these minutes?
I'll make that motion.
A second.
All right, any discussion? It was a very quick meeting.
Mhm.
All right, Jaleese, will you take a roll call?
Christia Claire,
Yes.
Brian Boyle,
Yes.
Marissa Brown,
Abstain.
Catherine Consalvo,
Dane, sorry, frozen.
Julie Hammond,
Yes.
Michael Mascola,
Yes.
Todd McCormick,
Yes.
Sue Sherman,
Yes.
Mark Sherwood,
Abstain?
motion carries.
Okay, great. Moving on, Jeff, any correspondence?
None that I'm aware of. No.
So correspondence, folks, is usually when, if anyone emails the BudCom email address, or it's something that goes through administration that's a question for budget committee, we would typically read that during that section of the agenda. I don't think we had any all last year or the year before, but you never know. So that's why it's on the agenda. Now, Jeff, on the agenda, it says see correspondence for delegates and individuals. Are we not doing the delegates and individuals, allowing people to speak?
Well, we only have one attendee, and if that attendee would like to to speak, if you wouldn't mind just raising your Zoom virtual hand.
Yep.
But
So
I don't see anything,
if
so.
this were a physical meeting and there were people in the audience, this would be similar to school board where we give somebody some time to speak and address the committee. We started doing this midway through last year, and allowing folks to put a little hand raised next to their participant name and then speak their mind. So, I think it's an important facet of what we do. And but like Jeff said, typically in a meeting, if we have a crowd of folks and we have somebody who wants to speak, they put their hand up and then we'll let them speak. But like you said, Jeff, I think we're good to move on from there. So next up is administrative report, and that is you, Mr. Dowd, or you, Maria, is she still on here? Ms. Watkins, yes. Either one of you, whatever you'd like to tell us.
Well, for those of you who are new to the committee, I am the SAU Business Administrator and CFO. The district is withdrawing from SAU 55, and Maria Watkins she had been working with me at SAU. She's now working at Timberlane as the CFO BA there, and she will be taking over in my stead come July 1st. So it's kind of a weird thing that you have an SAU BA and a Timberlane BA. Hey, whatever, we're making it work and making sure that everything transitions in good form and good order. So good stuff. I have a couple of things, but I don't know if you have anything, Maria, to speak to.
No, just welcome new members. Had to have all members in the committee, and I have been working with Jeff for the last couple months in my BA assignment, and I am learning. I don't come from the school district background. I come from the corporate background, so I am learning. So I appreciate your patience as we go along trying to navigate this budget committee.
I'm sure in very, very, very capable hands. Once I move on, I'll be moving on to the Hampstead School District. So I'm taking over there as their CFO, BA, and HR director.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So other new and exciting things, it's a weird setup, but we're going to be receiving some additional funding under what we call ESSER 2, which are the second, I'll say the second-ish round of federal grants that come to us through the Department of Ed. Those are upwards at this point of about well over $500,000. And I expect that we're going to be getting some additional funding under the latest COVID Relief Act passed. And I don't know what that amount is as of yet. The Department of Ed really only within the past 5 days, 6 days confirmed what we can actually spend the money on generally. So I don't know exactly how it's going to play out for the district. I know that we have had some expenses associated with, for example, pandemic floaters who came in and were able to cover some of our classes if our teachers were remote. We've had additional, some cleaning costs, supplies, those sorts of things. We're getting into numbers though that are large enough so that we're going to be spending, I'm sure, some of that on some larger facilities and construction projects. The tracking and reporting requirements for federal fund expenditures relating to construction projects is burdensome at best, nearly impossible at worst. In reality, that's probably what it is. So we have a lot of different aspects that we need to look at as we are looking at how to spend those federal funds. We never want the funds to be in jeopardy at a later point should those funds be reviewed. But there are a number of compliance issues, right down to prevailing wage provisions, some minority women-owned business considerations, just different things that our more local vendors may not have so much experience with. And I think as we're moving along here, we are having an air study. We have had an air study conducted. We're having our HVAC equipment evaluated, and I think the idea is that if we can get some results in from that, we may be able to enhance some of the areas that have some low air flows and create better learning environments, which would be more conducive to ASHRAE. The irony of the whole thing is that, as you all know, vaccines are becoming more readily available and are available to teaching staff and educators, but still not to students. So no matter what, even if this money gets spent over the summer, if there's nothing in line for our students, it'll make hopefully make a safer environment for them as well. So that's a bit of good news, and I expect that we'll be receiving at least that, if not more, in the next round of federal funding as well. So I think it's a good opportunity for us to go in, look at the systems that we have, and come up and make our learning environment better. So that's what I have, I think, from an administrator's report at this time. Any questions? Excellent.
All right. Thank you very much,
Mhm.
Jeff. All right. So moving on, next part of the agenda, we would normally get some reports on committees. As you knew from the last meeting, that would mean from a budget committee perspective, the CIP committee. I highly doubt that we have anything there this early on. So then we would move on to Mr. Boyle to inform us on the hits and highlights of what's going on with the school board.
Well, we have, like this group, we have 3 new members. As you pointed out earlier, Todd, that we haven't, I guess it's still in the works, who's going to be serving what committee. I'm trying to think of some highlights there of last meeting last week. We're waiting to hear and get some recommendations who we're going to have for high school principal, academy principal. Those are big positions. The school board hired a new human resources director, woman coming from Nashua. I think she starts mid-April. Because we've had a lot of retirements here. So besides, we were ready for Jeff because we had plenty of time with Jeff, and Maria and Nancy gave us plenty of notice here because we've had a lot of senior people, retiring. I'm trying to think some other highlights here that
Well, we have a new superintendent since we last saw you, Brian.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, yes, that's like old news now, Todd.
I know.
I'm sorry. Yes, so yeah, Dr. Cochran came on because he was the interim. He's now the official, and we approved a reorg. So he's starting to fill in that who his team is going to be. So yes, and so I guess to me, I'm just used to working with Brian Cochran. So he's old news to me now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think about anything else. You think anything else, Jeff, that we're, I'm trying to think that.
Brian, you're forgetting.
I'm old now, I forget things.
The schools are heading back in.
Oh, well, yeah, well, that's, again, see, I guess assume all these, because half these people are parents, so I figured they know more about this stuff than me. So this is what you find out when you're on the school board. If you're a school board member that does not have a kid in the school district, you're among the last people to find out like what's going on in school. So
what Brian, what I just showed was a T-shirt that some of the high school staff and students have, and I'd like to recognize that as our high school has gone back, the level of enthusiasm, and obviously our students are dying to get back, and the level of enthusiasm with the return of students. And the welcoming environment from high school, I certainly hope is felt by all, but it's really, they've done a very, very good job getting everyone back in. I'm really excited about it. I was very, very pleased to see how much effort had been put into welcoming our students back. It's not just a welcome back to school in September. This is a very big thing. So
yeah, that's great.
Yesterday was the first Wednesday in over a year that any student has stepped foot in the schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to piggyback on what Jeff said earlier, that we have the school board has spent an awful lot of time and energy on HVAC, and we got a report a couple weeks ago that actually we found pretty encouraging, that apparently the amount of airflow per room was one number before COVID, and then they changed it after COVID. And even with the new standards, probably 2/3 or 3/4 of our rooms already meet that. But it's going to be better as they're going through and updating the maintenance and belts and filters. So which I find all good news. And I don't know. I'm glad when I heard that from Jeff. I was confident that we're going to be seeing money from the feds. Either way, we have money in capital, but obviously we'll take any federal money and all. But the more money we get, we will have no trouble spending it in these buildings.
Yep.
And so I think the one thing that we've learned, by the way, is our systems aren't in terrible shape. They're getting older, and the standards that they were installed at, they may still be functioning at it. As Brian indicated, it is that standards had changed a bit around the time of COVID. But what's interesting is we don't have an ability really to control, for example, humidity, which is one of those factors. So even in the systems that we have, if they're okay, we may end up replacing them with something that can better control our learning environments, even if we're getting the proper air changes in place. Very happy to have that money coming in.
Good.
Brian, I had a
Good.
question. Brian, what was how long is the contract that you signed with Dr. Cochran?
3 years.
3 years. And does it start, when was it started as of? Is it?
This year.
So does it go retroactive back to, like, what's the typical time frame? You know, I know a lot of times they run like June to June or something like that.
That's a good question.
I don't honestly remember the exact start date of Brian's contract, but it was a 3-year contract, and you know, I'm personally very happy with the selection, but what day of month it is, I honestly.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out if it would run through at that
Fiscal
third
year.
year since we're halfway
through
through.
the fiscal year, you mean? Well,
Yeah.
no, it didn't. We didn't backdate it from when he was interim, because
Yeah.
he just, you know, we did that. That didn't happen.
Right.
So I think his contract probably started in the last 30 days to 30 to 60 days. It must have started. So it's a 3-year contract.
Okay. All right.
So wait,
All right.
are you interested, Julie, 3 years from now and looking at the tape?
No. I just had noticed, I had seen that, and I just was like, well, how does that work with going along on the school year? That's all.
I don't think that's really not concerned, because depend on when some of our employees start. We don't really try to force it into a match into with exact fiscal year.
Okay.
You know.
All right. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Next is unfinished business, which I highly doubt we have any, but always worth asking Jeff if we do.
Not that I know, no.
Okay. And now we'll go on to new business. Review election results and approved budget. That's in the
Right.
package.
Yep, and I'm just going to breeze through this real quick. I have a sample ballot that you should see on the screen right now. This is, this goes by town and good, bad, or otherwise. This is the Atkinson sample ballot, just because that's how things roll sometimes. You'll note and every town should be the same with the exception of the actual candidates. So our articles passed, and what happens is the operating budget here was 74,318,918. That operating budget, as proposed by the budget committee, passed. It gets combined with this CBA that passed for 46,576, which I can't highlight, along with each of the 2 other CBAs which were passed, for your total budget amount. So you can see the 7644 on Article 5 and the 33,000 from Article 7. So each of those passed and were consolidated into the budget. The capital reserve, 250,000, also passed. And including the capital reserve, that brings our budget to 74,656,761. You'll see a copy of the budget in your package. This is really at a function object summary level, so you can peruse as you would like. You'll see a function detail. And just to point one thing out here as we get to the bottom of and I'm sorry to be scrolling down here so quickly. the total budget that you're going to see here, 74,406,760. That does not include the capital reserve. We had this discussion a number of years ago. The budget committee, I believe, and maybe even the school board to some degree, had that discussion a number of years ago. And for our purposes, while the total budget is 74,656,761, we don't include the capital reserve in the reports that the budget committee typically looks at. So you'll notice a little discrepancy in the budget where it's 74,406,760 there. I've also included a summary of results by town, so you can see how things passed. When they passed, I'll make it a little smaller here. Wrong way. There you go. So you can see how things passed, and this is sometimes helpful to understand how did our operating budget pass? How did it pass overall? How did it pass by town? How did our CBAs pass? How did they pass by town? And you can see that there was, generally some pretty strong support for the operating budget, for the CBAs themselves. So a pretty impressive budget year, and well done on the part of the budget committee putting together such a good budget. Brian, I don't know if you recognize that name at the bottom there, signed off, pretty thorough, good. If there are no questions on that, and I'm on one screen tonight, so I can't see anyone, but if there are no questions on that, pretty straightforward. I've included a copy of the schedule as proposed pursuant to how the bylaws lay out what our meeting schedule should look like. So this is really what the bylaws say the committee should be meeting on. I put it out there. I will let the committee determine if any other meetings are necessary or if any need to be canceled. I will note that typically it's the second and fourth Thursday. You'll see right here, Tuesday, November 23rd, that's a Tuesday to avoid Thanksgiving. And you usually don't have the meeting December 23rd. This current budget year that we're in right now, the meeting last December, you'll recall, fell on December 24th, which was Christmas Eve.
Didn't we meet twice? We met twice, didn't we?
We didn't meet on Christmas Eve, I know that, so.
We didn't meet on Christmas Eve, but we met like the Monday before.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, did we meet the week of New Year's? I guess we didn't.
I think you may have, yeah.
Yeah.
So again, this is just laid out pursuant to how the bylaws say that your meeting should be. If there are no changes, or if there are changes, let me know, or the committee know, and you make a decision and I can update it. But yeah, that's where it stands right now.
I think we'll definitely discuss this in number 11 on the agenda. I mean, it just makes sense to move some of those around, but we can make that decision more in the fall. As far as today and this meeting, I'm going to want to discuss when we talk about future agenda and dates, the next one. I think that's, it's part of the bylaws, but it's really saying one meeting between this meeting and when we reconvene in September, when the real work starts on the budget. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Yeah, and don't forget, it's my experience anyway that April meeting serves a number of different purposes. One of them is typically to be able to better hash out what our meeting schedule is going to look like in the fall for presenters. And I've already laid out a draft here for the committee, so you all can take a look and see the typical, and I might be scooting along here a little bit through the agenda items themselves, but typically we have the budget committee itself here in your September meeting. You'll be able to review budget performance to actual spend from the year that we're closing out now. Typically we have 3 to 4 presenters per meeting from the department level, school level, principal level. And this is how it's laid out. Typically, the school board has been requesting a budget for September 1st, which is very, very, very early. Sorry, October 1st, which is very, very early. We don't even have our insurance rates in at that point. So our health insurance rates in at that point, it's very, very early. So that budget continues to develop and evolve. The budget committee in the meanwhile is hearing all of the requests that might be coming in from the schools, getting an understanding of what the census, population, anticipated enrollments may be to help out with the overall understanding of the budget process itself. Early on in the year, we can typically look at maybe one school and like transportation, something that's a contractual obligation. So we can usually look at that early on. The budget committee's budget is very, very small. We can look at that early on. As we get later into the year, it's important to really be able to have some flexibility in student services and special education, because we want to be able to have those numbers presented as late as possible, because those really jump, and they can jump in some good ways and in some not so good ways. So I put it out there. This has been the general flow of what we've been, how the committee has been hearing these or looking at these budget requests in the past. This is what you would normally discuss at your April meeting. If it's helpful to have that out there now, there it is. So I don't know if there are any thoughts on that as well.
I like the way this looks. I mean, I know it's obviously like a moving target, and this could change. As we know, in this day and age, anything could change at the drop of a hat. I would say, and I mean, who knows if we can even do this, but it hasn't been done in years. I would like to get the facilities tour back on track. I don't know how realistic that is. I'd like to at least have it be, something we aspire to do, and then based on whatever the environment is and what the rules are of who can and can't go inside the schools, we'll play that by ear. But I definitely would like to do that. I've said this for years. I did it the first year I was on the budget committee. I found it incredibly helpful. Personally, I have 3 children, and all I ever saw was Danville, the middle school, and the high school, and I'd literally never stepped foot in any of the other elementary schools in the district. And so, it gives you a broad view of, different projects. You hear about the projects, you get to see it in person and see, kind of the conditions of the buildings and the facilities. And so I'd just like to throw that out there, Jeff. I know there's nothing you can really do about it right now, or Maria, I should say, but I definitely think it's valuable for both the budget committee and the school board, and more so even for folks that are newer and are getting involved here on these committees and these boards that haven't actually gone around and done one of these tours. Very, very valuable.
Also help shed quite a bit of light on, if you're not familiar with those projects that are listed on the CIP committee reports, it'll really shed some light on what those projects are by being able to see in the schools, specifically conditions or the requests. So.
Yep. Okay.
I think you should add a CIP evening into the schedule as well. You didn't do that last year. You should add that into.
Oh, yeah, good point. Good point. I would love to do that.
You didn't do that last year. And I'm going to suggest as we go along, some of those things will be moved up and some moved down. Sandown Central doesn't have to be one of the schools that we see last. That should be up high. I'd swap Sandown and technology, definitely. So you get technology as late as possible. So you get the closest numbers that Ken can, I'm assuming it'll be Ken can work out, so that you have those accurate numbers. And slip in CIP maybe in that same, I'd have to go back and look at the dates. Brian would too, but should be.
Why not the 23rd, Sue?
Have your CIP done on the 21st of, CIP won't be done on the 23rd.
Okay.
Probably not.
But it should be done by the 21st of October.
Yep, I would think.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Well, I would also make a suggestion that we can deal with this in the fall, but it's been a couple of years. Remember the good old days, Sue, there was a joint meeting with the school board and the budget committee.
Right, and we used to do that. We used to do that late in November, but I always thought that was a little late, because then we bumped into Thanksgiving, and then we were boom trying to approve budgets. So I thought that was really helpful when we did those.
Yep.
When did you guys do that?
So do you think that will be helpful to have that meeting between the November 11th meeting?
Oh, you froze up a little bit there, Maria.
Oh, sorry. Do you think it will be helpful to schedule that combined meeting between the budget committee and the school board between the November 11th and the November 23rd meeting?
I'm thinking, Maria, usually it's earlier because you're trying to get mutual goals there. That's how I remember it. it was almost like an introductory as the budget season was starting. That's how I seem to recall my first year on the board.
I remember it the
When
other
would
way.
you like,
Is that how you remember it, Sue?
No, I remember it the other way. Probably Mascola remembers it too. It was always late.
Okay.
Yeah, it was always late. It always seemed like it was at the end.
Yeah, and we were
Hmm.
trying to work out things.
But it sounds like you're saying the end didn't make a lot of sense, and
I didn't
earlier would
think-
be
I didn't
better.
think it did. I didn't think it
I would
did,
think.
but that's my personal view.
Yeah, if there's any big issues, I'd rather, let both boards have some conversation, and that's all.
So yeah, Maria, maybe sometime in October would make more sense. Maybe late October.
And that can be on either meeting night. That can be either on your meeting night or on their meeting night or whatever you want to do it.
And I've run that by the school board yet. I could get stoned to death on that one too, but that's all right. I'm good. I can handle it. I have broad.
Yeah, you'll take that back and they'll be like, Brian, you're not on there anymore. We're putting somebody else on there.
Exactly. I can handle it. I'm yelled at by the best. It's all right.
I think it's important to have that meeting. I agree that is something that we should definitely re-implement if that happened in the past, because it will be beneficial, I think.
Exactly.
So one way that the budget itself has evolved a little bit over the years, and I think that's a little bit different than what we've seen, it's taken hold a little bit more firmly as of late. By all right, the school board, by statute, would be putting together a budget. And I think for a while, for many years, the school board was the authority over the SAU, that over administrative staff to put the budget together. And the school board has been more active in that budget process as of late. So as I say, the school board looks for its budget around October 1st. And at some point, and it was quite late this year, I feel that budget was, I guess, it wasn't formally handed over to or presented to, but at some point, the budget committee has to start looking at the budget. It was either I think it was the 23rd of
December.
November. Yeah, I think.
No, it was the first week of December. I think it was the first meeting in December.
December. It was very, very late, and there was not a lot of formality, I guess, to that. And if so, must have been in here somewhere then. It didn't give a whole lot of room
Runway.
or time, to be able to shore things up. Having that meeting earlier or even in November can help get some of the goals aligned between the two committees, hopefully, and be able to help make that transition a little swell. Granted, this year was a very busy year in terms of COVID and all of the other distractions that had come up. But that process is a little bit different than what had come up. What ends up happening, it's really nice to have the school board be able to say, hey, you know what, this is our final proposed budget, and have that go over to the budget committee as a budget as of a certain date. It keeps it tidy, neat, and then the budget committee can then start. Well, I shouldn't say start, but look at it in the context that, yep, this is it. And I think the school board had done some further analysis on the budget, which they should have. Again, it was a very late year, but that analysis was a little after the budget committee had already started looking at the budget. So a little messy.
So with that said, I think it will be helpful if we can agree on a date where the school board presents the budget to the budget committee. So that way we have a set date, and both the school board and the budget committee have an idea of what needs to be done and when.
Well, I think that this meeting, though, that Brian and Sue were talking about precludes that, right? Like it's more of a meeting of the minds
That's
in advance of the budget, right?
That's
It doesn't mean we can't do both, Maria, but I don't know that we need a meeting for that. I mean, that's kind of why Brian or the school board rep is on here, on the budget committee. But I do think that this meeting could possibly take place, late October, early November. That leaves plenty of runway. That leaves, some time to formulate the budget and then, kind of do the handoff and still give us runway, to work on it, as opposed to, just having like one meeting. And I mean, that meeting that we did in December, late December, usually we don't do it. This is the first time in 3 budget cycles that we've actually had that meeting the week of Christmas. So not that we have to. I mean, we can call as many meetings as we want, but it'd be nice to get it wrapped up, before the end of the year. So I guess I would ask that, before our next meeting, maybe we could massage this a little bit, try to figure out, by then school board will have had a meeting. Brian can talk to them at his next meeting, and maybe we can come up with some potential dates for late October, early November for this school board budget committee combined meeting. And then in addition, I would like to get that CIP, melded into that table sometime in November as well, so that we can get a little presentation on that. And that could be, I don't know who we would speak to in that. That could either be Sue or Brian or both, or somebody else from the CIP committee.
The chairman of the CIP committee, and if it's Brian again, it would be Brian, but whoever this chairman is.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So that said, for now, that looks pretty good, and we'll just work on it a little bit to try to hone in on it. And again, a lot of that scheduling is dependent on, business building leaders as well, right, Jeff? I mean, right now it looks great on paper, and believe me, in the last few years, this is the first time we've even seen a table like this before September, don't you think, Mike?
Mm-hmm.
So that's great, but again, everyone needs to understand that, the principal of the middle school might not be able to make a certain date, and then that shuffles things around. But it's a good.
Zoom works.
What's that?
That's why Zoom's a good idea.
That's right, Sue.
Whether some of these people live in Newmarket and Londonderry and wherever, you can Zoom from those places and present your budget.
Yep.
It's helpful to get a general layout, and we have a general layout, and if the school has to swap in or out, so be it, but at least we've got a layout as to how the committee would like to hear the request. So.
Right.
Yep. Good. All right, Jeff, do you have anything else under new business?
Just had one other thing, when we budget in the fall, and as I just mentioned to you earlier, our health insurance rate is not in on October 1st. So the first round of the budget that usually goes to the school board is incomplete. Well, I shouldn't say incomplete, but really it's not complete to the extent we don't have that. We get what's called a guaranteed maximum rate in about mid-October. The guaranteed maximum rate, which is a budget number, a not to exceed number, an NTE, was 4.9% this year. Our actual came in at 1.9%. So we'll have a savings of close to $300,000 conceivably. So nice pickup there. That's all. That's it for me.
That's great. Okay. So that kind of covers new business. What I'd like to do now is the next meeting is scheduled for the 8th of April. In my experience, we don't have a whole lot of new things to talk about 2 weeks from now. That doesn't mean I don't advocate for at least one more meeting between now and when we all see each other's faces, whether that's in person or over Zoom in September. A few years back, we tried to see, let's do a bunch of more meetings, and really, in my opinion, and Michael, you were there too, and so were you, Julie. It amounted to really just kind of meeting and talking about the same things we talked about the last meeting. There's not a lot of new information outside of the expenses, right? I mean, that's part of our official duties under RSA is to monitor expenses that are currently, being expended in the current budget. And we get reports for that. So you all saw a whole slew of emails that came out today just for this meeting and in advance of this meeting with the packets and the packages, but you're going to get other emails that show you what the expenses are for the PAC and the school district in general and the food services. And I mean, it's for all of us to read, it's for all of us to digest. And that's definitely something that we should keep our eye on. But I don't know that it necessarily dictates having a meeting every other week and jamming in 3 or 4 meetings just to say, hey, we met. I mean, unless we're doing some work and taking some action, I don't really see a need to add more than the one extra meeting. And frankly, I think we should maybe vote today to, it's just my opinion and we can discuss it, but I think we should vote to move it out into either late April or sometime in May. And you know, maybe that gives Maria and Jeff some room to, you know, kind of shift around that table and figure out how we might do this combined meeting with the school board in the fall. So just throwing it out there. But if we do move it, we would need to make a motion to move it, and then we could determine what the date would be. Or the motion would have to include like what the next date would be, I think. Right, Jeff?
It would be helpful.
Is there any value of moving it even a month later? That way we can get a fiscal close on the year?
To June, you mean, Michael?
Well, so they'll close it June.
Hi, Mike, you know that.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah.
So even if Maria doesn't have an exact number,
Yeah,
they'll have a better number mid-July than anything else, so.
yeah.
Even if they give us a rough estimate, you know, we should close and have this much of a surplus as an estimate. It gives us a good sense.
That is not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Anyone else have any thoughts on
How about
that?
Maria?
Maria?
Yeah, so, well, I think this will be my first close, year-end close, so I will do my best to have a good number by mid-July. I hope we do by then have a very good understanding of where we ended up with the year. So I will say yes, at mid-July we can have that meeting. Can present what we have up to then. I am planning into having a good schedule for the summer, because I also am hoping to be able to complete our audit as soon as we can. So that way we can report to the So the school board schedule has a meeting on July 22nd. I don't know if they're gonna hold it.
Okay.
I think Kim said that it was based on, you know, the split, the withdrawal, and she thought it will be helpful to have a meeting in July. I don't know if you guys are finally gonna hold it or not, but it is a schedule.
Yeah, the 22nd of July, Brian, is every other week from here, from here till
I'm in.
now. Yeah.
Okay, I'll be here.
So is that your second, Brian?
Yes, that's second. I'm sorry. Yes, I'll be happy to second Sue's motion and I'm good.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, Jaleese, you want to make a roll call?
Christia Claire,
Yes.
Pam Boyle,
Yes.
Marissa Brown,
Yes.
Catherine Consalvo,
Yes.
Julie Hammond,
Yes.
Michael Mascola,
Yes.
Todd McCormick,
Yes.
Sue Sherman,
Yes.
and Mark Sherwood.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Well, there you have it. That pretty much does it. Before I adjourn, though, and unless I don't call a special meeting between now and the end of June, I just want to say that Mr. Dowd, the rest of us and all of us will not see you again then, I suppose, for any more budget committee meetings. So I want to extend my thanks to you for your service to this district. And it's been a pleasure working with you, sir.
Thank you very much. Most unexpected that this may be the last budget committee meeting, but that's okay. So
As if you don't have enough and won't have enough on your plate.
Poor guy. He's in tears over it, you can see.
Yeah.
Good luck, Jeff.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Best of luck.
Best
Yeah,
of
luck,
luck.
Jeff.
Been a pleasure.
Been great
All right.
working with you.
Sure, I'll be seeing you, Jeff, so I'll see you before. So.
Yes. Oh,
Well,
Maria?
I will say I'll quote from a Fish song, which not a lot of people on this call probably would know. There might be a few of you out there, but this has all been wonderful. Now I'm on my way.
Maria, did you have
ring a bell
something to say?
for some of you? What?
Yeah, it does. It rings a bell. Maria, were you going to say something?
Yeah, just to second what you said, obviously you, from here to July, you will have the monthly budget to actual reports. I encourage you all, and especially the new members, if you look at please look at those reports. If you have any questions, if something that you want to have a better understanding or have a deeper look into any of those budget lines, please reach out to me. I will be happy to provide any information that you may need to have a better understanding of our budget. So please feel free to reach out to me, and I will have myself or somebody in my team to get you what you need.
Excellent. Thank you, Maria. And you can you can reach out to me too, but Michael Muscola knows more than I do, so reach out to him. So with that, welcome.
One second, Todd. Because I'm sorry I came in late, so I want to welcome back the old members and a special welcome back. Welcome to the brand new members. So
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Brian. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Great to meet some of you for the first time and see some faces again. And with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 8:24, and we will see you in July.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a good night.
See you later.
Bye.
Take care.